Hello, dear friends. Here we are. This is the Medium's Harvest, day 29, chapter 29. The book in Portuguese, Seara dos Médiuns. In English, The Medium's Harvest. And here we are, studying a unique chapter. Kardec reveals to us things that are important to us. And I say things not that they are not important, but topics that are very important. Physical mediums. That's item 160 on the medium's book. And Emmanuel, I would say, in a beautiful unfoldment of wisdom, he goes to levels that are unprecedented in regards to revelations of the beyond. So, let's see. Chapter 29 of the Medium's Harvest is titled Announcement, Commencement, and Understanding. Let's see. He's relying upon Emmanuel, through Xavier, wrote that chapter, referencing to item 160 of the Medium's book, which is chapter 14 about mediums, types of mediums. This item is about physical mediums, and he says physical mediums are particularly able to induce physical phenomena, such as movements of inert objects, noises, etc. They may be divided in facultative mediums and involuntary mediums. Facultative mediums are aware of their ability, and they induce spirit phenomena through their own will. As we have stated, although this faculty is inherent in the human species, it is far from manifesting itself in all mediums to the same degree. However, if there are few individuals who do not possess it at all, there are even fewer who can induce impressive effects, such as suspending heavy objects in mid-air, moving them through the air, and especially inducing apparitions. The simplest effects involve the rotation of an object, raps produced by the lifting of an object, or raps produced internally in the object's own substance. Although we do not attribute any major importance to these phenomena, we nevertheless do not believe they should be slighted. They can provide interesting observations and can contribute to strengthening one's convictions, but one should know that the faculty of inducing physical effects rarely manifests among those who have more advanced means of communication at their disposal, such as writing and speech. The faculty usually decreases to the degree that another develops. Mamma mia! Emmanuel is going to unfold a chapter on the Medium's Harvest based on this item 160 of the Medium's book. There's so much to study in that single item. So Emmanuel is going to tell us something that relies upon that. One of the things we can observe is that Kardec is talking about mediumship of physical effects not being essential to the belief of anything. We don't need to see objects being moved to believe that spirits exist. But another point here, which is quite interesting, is that as we develop intellectual mediumship, or mediumship of intellectual effects, mediumship of physical effects decrease. That's what Kardec is saying. Quite interesting. What does that mean? Let's see what Emmanuel says, because Emmanuel knows better than us. Chapter 29 from the book The Medium's Harvest, and I'm reading the translation. Announcement, Commencement, and Understanding. There was a public meeting on April 25th, 1960, based on item 160 of the Medium's book. Emmanuel said, "The frank intervention of the spiritual plane in the physical plane can be said, as the popular saying goes, an embassy with decisive goals to be defined in 3 essential periods: announcement, commencement, and understanding. From Swedenborg to Andrew Jackson Davis, we find the active mediumship under the order of the higher spheres in the announcement of necessary renewal. And if small disparities are recorded in the verb of the workers in service, it is fair to remember that in the interpretation of reality, as in the interpretation of music, the isolated expression varies according to the particularities of the instrument. In 1848, in the village of Hydesville, the commencement of the commands of the survival becomes public. The discarnate emissaries, like family members who had long been absent from their homes, reach the terrestrial dwelling, beating frantically at the door. In the Fox residence, not only are there the claps from those who arrive, but also of those who welcome the missing. That happened between the girl Kate and the spirit Charles Rosna, established by strokes as a rudimental and primitive language between the 2 planes. Since then, many of the human workers reincarnated in the terrestrial circle began to operate various mediumship commissions in spite of their moral difficulties. They peacefully called the attention of Earth. Physical Phenomena by Daniel Douglas Home and the Davenport Brothers, by Florence Cook and Eusapia Palladino, as well as by other mediums, speak to the aristocracy of power and intelligence in palaces and laboratories, stirring leisure halls and press concerns. The noises of the invisible visitation mix with the noises of opinion. There are surprising beats heard here and there. Luminous hands wave everywhere. Voices resound between sealed lips. Quick messages are transmitted in a direct way, and entities materialize before the experimenters, who are taken by astonishment. However, the work of understanding is initiated with Allan Kardec, who clarifies the position of the doctrine and of the phenomenon as one who separates wheat from its chaff, establishing directions, creating obligations, and defining responsibilities. But as all spiritual education obeys the chronology of the mind, we still find today thousands of people in the announcement phase and thousands of others in the commencement phase between hope and conviction. As for us, who are at the stage of understanding, let us be able to materialize the principles of fraternity and spread moral help for the benefit of consciences by extending the light to the hearts of the people. That is so because the spiritual plane reaches the physical plane in fulfillment of the promises of the Christ, so as to bring all individuals together in the law of the good and to enable them conveniently for the continuation of today's service in the great future or in the great beyond before the greater life. What a development. Kardec, if you read the item 160 of the Medium's book, rarely we will conclude to this direction. But Emmanuel is a wise spirit, like a scientist in the lab, that can see in the little tiny bacteria the opportunity of creating new interventions for people's diseases. This is Emmanuel, the scientist of the spirit. Yes, the spirit scientist, the educator, bringing to us a new understanding, not only regarding mediumship, not only regarding humanity's progress, but about our progress as well. So here he says that the spiritual realm used physical mediumship to intervene in our physical plane. It was purposeful. Oh yeah. The higher spirits orchestrated the coming of their announcement. Andrew Jackson Davis, on the night of March 30th, 1848, from another side in New York, he was foreseeing the coming of the events that were about to happen at the Fox sisters' house, upstate New York, when there was no internet, when the news would travel very slowly. And the power of those manifestations, the physical manifestations, were so strong that we know it to date. So let's rest assured, the spirits of high order planned their intervention. That's why Emmanuel says there was a spiritual plan and they intervened. Ostensibly, clearly, no doubt that they did it on purpose. How did they do it? The first phase, the announcement. Here we are, we're here. Knock, knock, who is there? Charles Rosner? Yeah. Knock, knock, who is there? I scream you. Who? Charles Rosner. Yeah. Pretty much a joke, but it's exactly what happened. Charles Rosner was there. He knocked. And through the raps and the knocks, the Fox sisters were able to talk to him. And to date, we know of that. Imagine the power of that communication. No internet, remote location, a family of ordinary people. And we say ordinary, quote unquote, because everybody is extraordinary. But we're just saying, people, they had no extra physical element but mediumship. And he says, from Swedenborg to Andrew Jackson Davis, we were announced that the spirit world exists. From Europe to the United States of America. And he came to the United States of America. And you know, the funny part of it all is when people doubt that the United States is prepared for it. We should tell everybody, hey, don't forget, the intervention of the spirits began here. And they began here because there were open doors. And there still are open doors. Do you have any question? If anybody whom you know has any question, remind them of Andrew Jackson Davis, of the Fox sisters, and every single. Go to Lily Dale Assembly and you're going to see the many, the Davenport brothers, the precipitations, and you're going to see the accounts, one after the next, of ostensible mediumship that happened here. and still does. Still does. Look at the production in Hollywood. The United States of America is the one that produces the most movies on the afterlife, on the intervention of the spirits onto our lives. All the movies. And people are still doubting. Sometimes they say to me in Brazil, do you think they are ready? I'm like, they are humans. They are not ETs. They are humans just like us. We are humans here in the United States. Why wouldn't people be ready if it all started here? It started here. It didn't start in Brazil. The spirits planned to wake up humanity in the United States of America. And from here to Europe, Kardec, in a beautiful collaboration from the United States to France, Paris, France, and other countries, then back to Brazil and other countries, and out to the world. Back to the world. But we can't forget it. And he says, and no matter if people had their difficulties, everything was announced right there. In 1848, with the Fox sisters, we begin a new phase. A phase in which we are at the very beginning. That's why it's called commencement. It's like when you go to graduate school. For example, if you go to graduate school in medicine, or if you go to psychology or nursing or pharmacy or dentistry, after the first year of introduction, they have a ceremony, usually on the second year, which is the white coat ceremony. I'm saying it generally. What does that mean? They say it's the commencement. It's the beginning, after the second year, beginning the third year, which is about the clinical years, meaning the practical years. The same for the teachings and this announcement of the communication of the spirits with us when it becomes more ostensible, from books and the perception of a few to a more generalized crowd. And we see, he says, many human workers who are reincarnated, operating in diverse mediumship commissions, calling the attention of the earth. So he gives the example of Daniel Douglas Home. And you know, when you read the Spiritist magazine at Kardec's time, you get to know that Daniel Douglas Home wanted to visit Kardec's Spiritist Center. And Daniel Douglas Home was really like the physical medium. But Kardec didn't open up the doors because there were some iffiness regarding the free mediumship of Daniel Douglas Home, and other reasons too, but I'm just giving you some idea about the richness of the Spiritist magazine at Kardec's time, which sums up a lot of what Emmanuel is saying here. The Davenport brothers he mentions there too. Florence Cook and Isabella Palladino are women mediums that also became quite renowned, and they were researched by renowned scientists of the time who had no doubt whatsoever about mediumship after researching them. So he says, through them, people got to know that the spiritual realm exists. But it takes Kardec to begin the third phase, which is the phase of understanding. Because Kardec clarifies the set of principles and phenomena. He separates wheat and chaff. Now, let's stop for a moment. You know that Jesus saying that there will be a time in which we're going to separate wheat from its chaff. So it's interesting because what is this? When you research about chaff, you get to know that it's what envelops that grain. So chaff is not bad because it has a function. But there's a moment in which you don't need it anymore. When? When you're mature. When you're going to nourish a soul. Then I need the grain, but not the chaff. Unless we are livestock like chicken, etc. And then they may be used. But for humans, we don't need it. What does that mean? When Jesus says that, He's inviting all of us, as we grow mature, we no longer need that external mask that we use and we have been using for many lives to protect us. Now in this life, as we grow more mature, we don't need that anymore. Yesterday, when we were studying chapter 28 about let us work, Emmanuel said, let us purify our emotions, sublimate our thoughts, educate our speech, and refine our actions, perfecting ourselves. That's when we don't need a chaff anymore. We keep the essence, the grain that is going to nourish not only us, but others. So you see, when Jesus says, let wheat and chaff grow together, when they're mature, we're going to be able to split them apart. That's the time we're living on the earth. The planetary transition. No longer we need masks. No longer we need masks. And why we're saying this? Because often people are going to love us if we say, I love you. You're so kind and loving. Oh, you read da 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 da. But when we tell the truth, people dislike us. But there comes a moment when we're mature that we're going to love the truth. And we no longer push away the truth. The truth is no longer ugly. The mask is ugly because it's false. It's fake. We want the truth. When we're mature, we know the truth. We no longer want to live in fantasy. Oh yeah. To use imagination is not to leave reality. It's to co-create. It's completely different. The concept in Spiritism about imagination is to create new images of constructive thoughts. These mentors are not telling us, André Luis and Emmanuel are not telling us that we should use our imagination to create fake realities, but to co-create a better reality for all of us. Completely different from children's phase when they need fantasy. And if you dare to destroy it, it's bad for them. But there is a moment when we grow adults, and especially more mature spiritually, in which we're able to face the truth without the need of masks, without the need of fantasizing. Actually, we are clear-cut looking at reality, and we love it as is, and we're able to see it further down the line when we're all evolving. That is what we call imagination. So, Emmanuel is telling us that Spiritism, through Allan Kardec, brings us the third phase of the understanding of mediumship, which is understanding, in which we establish directions, create obligations, and define responsibilities. Completely different from mediumship without Spiritism. In announcement phase, people see spirit manifestations, they're like, oh, it's so beautiful, but no commitment, no responsibility, no obligation, no direction, no guideline. In the commencement phase, not necessarily there is any of this. It comes to the third phase of understanding, maturity. When we understand through Kardec that to be a good medium, we need rules, we need obligations, and we need to define responsibilities. We are forever grateful to Kardec for having the courage of bringing this unfailing framework. I've never seen in humankind's history productive mediums such as the Spiritist mediums. We know Moses was a wonderful medium. We know that other mediums in humankind's history fulfilled their role. But when you see Chico Xavier, a medium that disciplined and educated his mediumship with Jesus, according to the Spiritist teachings, the result is still to be understood by science, still to be understood by humanity. And we're seeing Chico Xavier as one example. But if we see the teenage mediums, the teenage girls who were mediums at Kardec's time, who brought the teachings that make these books, we're still impressed. Kardec had a code of ethics to work in a mediumship meeting. Kardec outlined guidelines. He defined responsibilities. If we follow through, we won't fail. We may be hesitant at times. We may be not precise, but if we persist, we're going to accomplish what were assigned by the higher spirits. So Emmanuel says, the work of understanding is initiated by Allan Kardec. At Fox Sisters, they didn't understand what was going on. They couldn't understand the mechanisms of mediumship. But it takes Spiritism to understand mediumship, to understand and create a set of guidelines and a framework that is going to make its practice safe. And he says, as all spiritual edification obeys the chronology of the mind, now this is something we can't forget. Because now in this last part, Emmanuel is going to bring to us the feeling part, the personal tone for us. Okay? Where am I in this scripture? Because this is beautiful. But if it doesn't pertain to me, it didn't change me. He is not writing dissertations for the intellect. Emmanuel, as the educator assigned by Jesus to help us in humanity, he is educating our feelings, our thoughts, which is cognition and affection. And we say affection in the scientific way. He says, we still find today thousands of people in the announcement phase. How? Christmas time, New Year's Eve is going to come. They go talk to a psychic. They go talk to somebody who reads their hands, does the chart, and they read and say, oh, next year. That's the commencement. That's the announcement. Oh, so beautiful. Next year. He says, thousands others are in the commencement phase. They're beginning it. They go to the Spiritist Center. They hope. They start believing, but they're still like, yeah, I believe in the past. I don't know how or why. I believe spirits exist, but I don't understand much about it. These are people who are in the commencement phase. But where are you? Where am I? Am I in the announcement phase, still browsing through it? The phenomenon, like, wow. Or like, yeah, but, commencement phase, or the third phase. Emmanuel says, we, for us, who are in the stage of understanding, let us be able. So what is required from us to materialize fraternity? If we are in the Spiritist movement and we are not bringing people together, we're setting them apart, we are not in the understanding phase full force. Because that's when we use Spiritism and mediumship under the eyes of the light of Spiritism to create more fraternity and spread moral help, bringing light to the hearts of all people. Why? Because the spiritual plane, the plan reaches the physical plane to fulfill Jesus' promises. How can I use these teachings that came from the Christ, if not to create peace on earth and goodwill among men? Peace on earth and goodwill among men. Peace on earth, unity. But peace only comes when we create community, the common togetherness, real togetherness, not enforced from organizations to individuals, but from individuals to organizations. We cannot depend on a government. We cannot depend on the president of our Spiritist Center. We cannot depend on federations or anything. We need to help foster real unity instead of separation and division, etc. So a friend here who is under the name of Kardec Radio, I'm not sure who is, we have a team, says, just to remind, Swedenborg mentioned in this chapter is one of the high spirits who was signed in the Prolegomena as well as Benjamin Franklin. You're right. That's a good reminder. Some of these spirits here that are mentioned, including Swedenborg, are spirits that belong to the scope of the making of Spiritism, as written in the Prolegomena beginning of the Mid-Spirits book. Thank you for the reminder. So for us, we should use these teachings to bring togetherness, to fulfill the good, and to bring great service for the great future, or in the great beyond, before the greater life. This is quite interesting, isn't it? Where am I on this? In the announcement phase, the commencement phase, or the understanding phase? Where are we? And if we are in the understanding phase, what am I required to do? So we're going to repeat Emmanuel's words. Let us be able to materialize the principles of fraternity and spread moral help for the benefit of consciousness by extending the light to the hearts of the people. Shall we, friends? Nina Dewey, how are you? Lea Severo, Rian and Nico, how are you? Carol and Mark Smith, good to see you here again. Beautiful Karina, lots of good, loving, healing energies. Thank you for your kindness too. Teresa Catapano, Sol Souza, how are you? Rafael Medeiros, how are you? Lisa Teles, Renata Cassadei, how are you? Raquel Bakeshi, how are you? Ceissa, how are you? La Souza, Paula, beautiful Paula from the SSVA, La Souza, John the Rose, good to see you again. Nora Brazil, Guilherme Velho, Adilson, Rita Flor, beautiful, beautiful. I can't believe our dear Norma Guimarães is here with us. What a joy. Thank you for being with us, Norma. So friends, where are we? In the announcement phase? Very likely we're not. Commencement? Maybe. Just like I believe, but I believe, but I believe, but finally understanding. Yes, I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. Yeah, the sky of my virtues. The sky of my best, the best of me, which is divine, right? And let us use this divine potential to reach out to others. Friends, don't hesitate of sharing this good news on your Facebook. Don't worry, what are people gonna think? That you think things? That's good. When they think you don't think, that's bad. Like, this person thinks too much. Yay, celebrating. Doesn't matter. What matters is, if we don't do our part now, if we don't come out and show, people won't know. If you don't come out and show, people will not know it. Right? So what happens when we come back tomorrow? Emmanuel is going to deepen it and talk about these other mediumships. What are they? What are they? He's talking about different types of mediumship, and he's saying, he's giving us great guidelines. He's giving us like pairs types of mediumship and guidelines in our daily lives. Yeah, you want it, right? Daily practice. What is our homework based on today? Evaluate how we're extending fraternity, materializing fraternity and enlightenment wherever we are. Shall we, friends? And tomorrow we come back, God willing. We will come back for chapter 30, which is going to crown the 1/3 of this book. If you have any questions or comments, write down or send a message to us, and we'll be able to get back to you. We wish you a beautiful week. If your day is already opening up, go on with your day materializing fraternity and enlightenment. And if your day is ending now, go to the spiritual realm and keep researching and learning, and let us work together for the betterment of ourselves and humanity. Thank you, Rihanna, for your presence and the beautiful works too you're doing. Bye-bye.